Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We got a special one for you today. This is the San Jose Bicycle Club Wednesday night criterium. Super fun course. It's got wind. It's got a hill. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. First, let's set things up here. I got my teammate Chris in this race. That's right. This is Chris right here. We are usually teammates, but in rare occasions, we show up at the same practice race, and we get to not be teammates, which is a lot of fun. So this is a good example of Chris and I basically attacking each other as hard as we possibly can. I was determined not to allow Chris to win, and Chris was determined not to allow me to win, which is funny because I just released the Pescadero video where we worked as teammates in the state championship road race and did such a good job. So now we are just going to punch each other in the face as hard as possible. Stay tuned and check out how this unfolds. Okay, so we're picking up action here. We're probably about halfway through the race. I just turned on the GoPro, and a lot's already happened, to be honest. We've already reduced the field by about 50%. I would say about half the field is left over a series of just body blow attacks between Chris and I, chasing each other back and just making it generally really hard in the crosswind and the hill. Because if you check out the blue arrows, yes, we have a tailwind on this section of the course, a headwind on the other long leg of the course, and there's an important feature coming up. That is this hill. We're gonna come into the bottom of it here in a moment, and you'll see it doesn't last very long. It's I don't know, maybe 1 minute at 5 or 6%, but it's a straight tailwind, meaning there's really no drafting and no consequence of being out of the draft or anything like that. It's just kind of a leg breaker. You just have to stand up and do a whole bunch of watts over it. But here's what's going on in this race now. We do have probably about 10 or 15 people in this group, but a lot of the work is being done between us three riders on the front right now. Chris is on the front drilling it right now. Behind him, Cameron, and then myself. All these other riders who are just kind of sitting in. And look, Chris is a guy who has, he's this high FTP style, climber time trialist who is just really good at doing what we're doing right now, which is 700 watts up this climb over and over and over again. Me, not so much. So I don't want to continue rotating. So eventually, when we get back down to the flats, I rotate to the back of this group because I don't really want to drop myself trying to go pole for pole with these other two strong guys. And you can see what immediately happens. Like chaos ensues. And this is what I wanted to prevent from happening. You can see at the front, Chris kind of looks back. Cameron goes. Chris follows. And the riders just kind of inexplicably let the wheel go. It's so frustrating because I did all this work on the front, and I just want to go back and take a breather for one cycle maybe, and now I'm yelling at them chase that back. Max sees the writing on the wall, he goes, but a guy like Chris, a guy like Cameron, especially now a guy like Max, that trio, that is not a group that you just let roll off the front like this. This is super dangerous. But what do? We're not going to panic. We're going to keep trying to coerce poles out of my competition. That's not working. And this is what you want to prevent. See how my power was 100, 100, 100, and now it's 600? They're up the road just doing 350, 400. It's a much more consistent and efficient effort. I've talked a lot about this on my channel, but we're not panicking just yet because if we're going to try to nuke it across to that lead group, which only has 5 seconds right now, maybe 4 seconds, we're going to wait. We're going to wait for that hill. We're going to try to use the features of the course to benefit ourselves. So that's what we're doing. I'm not going to turn it off. I'm still doing 350, 400. You see me with the elbow flick. See if I can get another pull out of these guys because I want to close it down the easy way. I just want to rotate with these guys. But if they're not going to help, I'm going to try to position and prepare myself to chase it back by myself. But in doing so, I want to drop everybody else. Does that make sense? I'm going to try to teleport across to that group. Timmy's now launched across and nobody's following. So see how the dysfunction happens immediately. Immediately in amateur racing. So I'm waiting. We're hitting the bottom of this hill, and now it's time to drop 1,000 watts to send it across. And hopefully drop everyone in the process. Come blowing past Timmy. Because I don't want to face Timmy in the sprint. I don't want to face anybody except those three riders at the front. I think there's a misconception about field sprinters just wanting to field sprint, but it's simple math, you guys. Yes, I like to field sprint, but is it easier to sprint against 20 riders or is it easier to sprint against 3 riders? Well, the math is pretty easy on that one. It's 3. So that was the idea. Now we have some daylight. I'm tired, though. 175 beats per minute. That was a really hard effort to go up that hill, and it was not an efficient effort because it wasn't consistent, right? We were up at 1,000 watts. That was like a sprint effort almost to get across to these guys. But this was kind of phase one of this race. It was first forcing this selection of 10 or 15 riders at the beginning, and then it was further whittling it down to this lead and final breakaway group of 4. And honestly, we played well together for a while. Like, for the next couple of laps, we just rotated nicely. This was looking really successful. But what did I say from the very beginning? Chris was determined not to let me win this race, and nobody wants to tow a sprinter around. So here goes Chris on the right, putting in yet another attack. I each have to chase it down. And this kind of marked the end of our friendly, smoothly rotating breakaway group, because like I'm not going to continue rolling turns just so I can get attacked again. That is not how I win this race. Eventually, Cameron just kind of rolls off the front, and we all look at each other like, no you, and he's able just to sneak away the easy way, the smart way, and establish a pretty big gap. So then that left the three of us not willing to work with each other, all kind of looking at each other. Meanwhile, Cameron up the road doing a consistent threshold effort, and he was just gaining time on us. Eventually, he was out of sight, and eventually something had to be done, right? So Chris kicks this off again. He's going to attempt to solo across to Cameron and leave Max and I behind. Now, you can see when Chris goes, he goes. He commits to it. This is no joke. Max did a much better job to immediately jump into Chris's draft. Meanwhile, I am on the struggle bus back here. I am really slow to close these final few meters down to get back into the draft. Remember, this is a headwind, so this is pretty consequential. And it's for good reason. Like, I mean, up to this point, I have normalized something like 370 watts, maybe 380 watts. So this has been a really hard effort with still 26 kilometers to go. I have to be careful I don't really get myself deep into the red. Okay, so a few laps later, and we are just not really playing nice together. We keep trying to counterattack each other. Meanwhile, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Mr. Cameron up the road now is just out of sight. He's like over a minute at this point, I think, which is really impressive and also really threatening for this crit win. Look, if you have a minute gap in a crit, that is usually lights out. But I haven't lost hope. I'm thinking at a certain point we're gonna start working together as this group of 3. And 3 versus 1, we can bring him back, but we have to act quickly inside of 20 Ks to go. And eventually Chris just drops off right here. You can see I thought he had a flat. Turns out after the race he told me that a bee flew underneath his sunglasses. I don't know, kind of suspect. But we haven't seen the last of Chris. We'll see him again later. But for now, it's down to Max and I. And now Max and I fall immediately into rotation, and we are committed to bringing Cameron back. But it is no easy feat. He is up there like with a minute's gap, and we're pretty exhausted from beating up on each other for the last, 3-4 laps. But eventually we catch him, and I really like this position that it puts me in because I know that Cam is tired. He's been off the front solo for super long time. And then also, I know that Max is pretty tired because we've been trading poles. Oh, and also, this is a good a time as any to mention this. Big kudos to Max for grinding like 30, 40 cadence up this climb. His Di2 ran out of batteries like right towards the beginning of this race, and he just stuck with it. What a champ. Just grinding this massive gear up the climb. Doesn't exactly make you strong for the sprint finish. I just have to make sure this group stays together. The chasing group is out of sight, and I just want to get to the bottom of that final climb, and I'm fairly confident I can win out of this group. And the plan is working. We're coming through 1 lap to go. We're still together, the 3 of us. They're ringing the bell right here. Last time around, inside of 3 kilometers to go. Max still grinding on the front. And right there, you can see me looking back. I do a double take. I cannot believe who I see in the rear camera here. That orange jersey of Chris on the front, smashing the only way Chris knows how, determined to catch us. And guess who he's got in tow? Remember that original breakaway group of like 10 or 15 riders? He's got all of them in tow. He dropped back, got to the front, and just put on a chasing clinic and is bringing us back. By the time he finishes the bridge effort down here, inside of a half a lap to go in the headwind, it just prompts this massive slingshot counterattack, which I am unable to respond to. In fairness, I probably could have maybe jumped on it. I had this great opportunity right here to jump on it, but even if I did, I was in no position to win this race. I really committed myself to the breakaway. Timmy ended up taking the win, final time up the climb. Congrats to Timmy. And I successfully made sure Chris didn't win this race, and Chris successfully made sure that I didn't win this race. It was a total blast, a great workout. If you guys are in the area, come on out to the San Jose Wednesday night criterium. And as always, catch you guys in the next one.